All right, check it out. So we've got about half of the cab done as far as just giving the entire floor pan a rust encapsulator. And it's just a preventative measure that I'm doing just because I've had, you know, not a major rust out problem, but just a couple little spots in there that we've sanded out and hit with a rust encapsulator and then patched with fiberglass. And so now I'm just kind of giving everything a full coat of rust encapsulator. So this is one side, I'm about to do the other side. Here we go. Whole cab is floorboard is coated in a rust encapsulator, and let that dry for quite a few hours, probably the whole day, and then tomorrow we'll get some chance to work on it. Next will be sound deadener and then insulation. Okay, so here we are. The sound deadener insulation or sound deadener install in the cab is complete. Pretty much got the entire floorboard, mostly large pieces and a few small pieces here and there to fill everything in. I know you don't have to cover every square inch, but I've covered at least 90 to 95%. And to show you what I used, instead of the more expensive Zilla mats or Acoustic Shield or whatever, I read a ton of reviews, got a bunch of great reviews on this company right here. Got on Amazon for a whole lot less. Installation is super easy. Come in these pretty big sheets. You just cut it to what you need it. Roll it on with this bad boy right there, and it's good to go. All right, next step is complete. So this is the entire cab now been insulated, all seams taped up with insulation seam tape, if you want to call it that. So next step is polyvinyl flooring. I'm gonna wrap up this video with the current stage that we're at here. I got the polyvinyl flooring completely installed into the cab and learned a lot on this one. And I got this one. I compared prices on this polyvinyl flooring from a lot of different places, and to be honest, I went ahead, I ordered it from LMC. There were other companies where it was priced a little bit less, but the shipping or the freight or whatever to get it here was just ridiculous. And so I basically had, you know, a good polyvinyl flooring, molded polyvinyl flooring in the shopping cart at a couple of different places, and got all the way to the checkout process, and I just went with basically the best rate. And anyway, I'm happy ultimately with the job and how it looks and everything. I learned a lot. I made a couple errors in trimming it. As you can see right here, when I trimmed it, I didn't quite make it all the way to the edge right there, so that's not quite as good a job as I could have done. Over here, as high up in the floor as it goes, you can see I got a little bit of space up there at the very top, underneath that vent, and because I'd accidentally trimmed off a little bit too much. So I could have done a little bit better job trimming, but all said and done, I'm pretty happy with it. And then I've also got the weather stripping back into the door. I've only got the driver's side done so far today, and it's a little bit too cold the last couple days to get the next to get the other side in, otherwise the adhesive won't really work that well. But I got the polyvinyl floor in, the weather stripping in on this side, and then the chrome threshold is holding everything down nice and tight. Pretty good job. Door panels are now back on both sides, and I'm gonna finish this up by talking about my new radio. So I got a nice new speakers, both an in-dash speaker and the door speakers, talked about in another video. And I also got this radio in there. Everything is wired in, it works. Really happy about that. The switch power, the power just that should come on when you turn the vehicle on. I just routed that to the old wire that used to do the same thing on the original radio. But for the constant power, I basically took the wire from the back of this radio that needs constant power, and I spliced it into the lighter, and that works great. Have double checked it, turned the vehicle off and on many times, and a couple things settings that I made are being stored correctly, so I know that constant power works. The next couple steps. I went ahead and I've got brand new seat belts, and in the description down below I'll put in where I got the seat belts from, but I'll talk a little bit more about those later when we're really buttoning the cab up. So what's next is, once I get the weather stripping in, the door on the other side, and the threshold down, at that point, before the seat goes back in, I will be replacing that window. In the previous video, I talked about that that window will be replaced down the road in the future. That's actually happening sooner rather than later. I got permission from the boss lady to go ahead and order one. So I got a great new slider window with a gasket on it that's going to go in relatively soon, pretty soon I hope. Once that is in, the shoulder seat belts will get strapped back in as well, and then the bench goes back in, and we're going to be ready to fire it up. So anyway, wrapping this video up with this is where we're at, and more to come.